Thank you, Professor Mooney, and ladies and gentlemen. It's a very great pleasure to be here. And the description Professor Mooney just gave you all about me just reminded me of that old cliche, see, jack of all trades. So here I am before you. And my focus will be on the way the media have been working in Bangladesh. And let me begin with one example. A few weeks ago, before coming to Delhi, on one of those ubiquitous television channels in Bangladesh, we have a whole lot now, nearly 30 private television channels, and there are a whole lot of talk shows that go on there. So one of these discussants, he's a frequent participant in these discussions. He was very vocal. He said there was no democracy in the country. The government is gagging the press. The country is going towards one-party rule. He went on saying it. Suddenly, in the middle of the discussion, there was a call from one of these people who were watching him on television, and he put a question to the gentleman: if there is no freedom of the press, if there's gagging of the press, if there's no democracy, how are you on that show right now? So in Bangladesh, so we have a very vocal media representation. Of course, there are problems, but let me begin with some facts. In Bangladesh now, as I said earlier, we have at the moment 27 private television channels, and we have 70 daily newspapers. 70 daily newspapers, most of which are in Bengali, and for a country which has a small country, geographically very small, population-wise, we tell ourselves that we are a big country, a small country with a big heart in the sense that we have a very big population, 160 million people in a country of 55,000 square miles. So we have 70 daily newspapers, of which 9 are in the English language, about 27 television channels, and we have a good number of online news portals that have been coming up of late, that have come up of late. And as far as our political orientations, our cultural orientations are concerned, we in Bangladesh tend to believe and tend to take pride in the fact sometimes, and again, it could also be negative. Bangladesh is a country where two subjects are constantly being discussed. Either you have a whole lot of poets talking about poetry, or you have a whole lot of people, non-politicians, but in any case, discussing politics. So poetry and politics are our twin passions. On the one hand, you have Rabindranath Tagore and Kazi Nazrul Islam. On the other hand, you have almost everyone in politics, all over the subcontinent. Like yesterday, today, in fact, yesterday, I was telling some of my colleagues here, some of those participants here, yesterday was the anniversary of the first military coup in Pakistan, in 1958. That took place on 7th October 1958. But on the 27th of October 1958, Ayub Khan took over full power from General Iskandar Mirza. So that has been a point of discussion in Bangladesh lately, among friends. So we go back. When we talk of Bangladesh, when we talk of politics in Bangladesh, we go back a long way. But in my paper, it's impact of media ownership on reporting. There are perhaps some unpalatable truths I have mentioned there, but then I thought these needed to be said. And if you go through to my paper, you'll find certain facts which might appear very I'm very uncomfortable or very incomprehensible to you, but those are the things that those are certain facts that we have lived with. So I'll just go on briefly without reading out the whole newspaper. So I've had occasion to work in a number of newspapers and culling from the experience of other journalists. So we have certain situations, certain conditions in Bangladesh where in the beginning, starting from the 1960s, there was press censorship, of course, but in independent Bangladesh, we have had certain problems, certain difficulties where running the media is concerned, conducting reporting is concerned. We began as an independent nation in 1971 on the idea that ours would be a full secular liberal democracy. Somewhere along the way, we lost track of things, and we have had, unfortunately, our own spells of military dictatorship, and but again, while these dictatorships were instrumental in imposing certain restrictions on the press in Bangladesh, at the same time there have also been some politically politically elected, democratically elected governments which have again done certain things which we did not think that they would do. For example, in early 1975, in June 1975, for example, when the country under the government led by the founding father of the country, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, so we call him Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, it decreed that there would only be 4 newspapers in the country, 2 in English language, 2 in Bangla, and that was one of the first assaults on media freedom made by a democratically elected government, which government again had by that time taken the country to a one-party system, and then of course tragedy followed. After that, we had the specter of a long period of military rule coming in. We've had General Ziaur Rahman coming in, our first military ruler, and then we have had General Irshad. The interesting thing about the time of General Irshad, he was there. He was our longest-serving military ruler. So in his time, and this is from experience. So we used to work in the newsroom, midnight till after midnight, and just as the newspaper was about to go to press, there would come some kind of advice. They called it advice, euphemistically put, advice from the government that this news item should not be going. It is suggested that this not go, but that was not a suggestion. That was an order, and the news did not go. And this is how we have operated. And again, lately there have been instances under our different civilian governments where, very polite instructions were given to the media, especially to the television channels, that so-and-so commentator or participant on the talk shows should not be there on the talk shows anymore. So these have been working as rather as debilitating factors. But despite all that, if you watch our television programs, if you read our newspapers, there's a very vocal liberal press that we still have, and of late a move by the government, to ensure, as it says, to ensure the quality of the press, has introduced a bill that has been passed into law, that has been seen as one more major step toward controlling the press. We would not like to see that. We hope that there's no gagging of the press, or there are no media restrictions. But so far, nothing negative has happened. But that has also come under criticism. Why should the government take upon itself the question of media of regulating the media, or ensuring the quality of the media? Quality will come from within itself. Now, internally, so internally, as I said, we have some peculiar incidents, some rather disturbing incidents in Bangladesh. A few years ago, when I was in India on a similar program, one of my friends in India, he asked me, why do journalists in Bangladesh keep changing jobs so often? Which is a fact. Today I'm with one newspaper, 3 years later I may be with another newspaper. One big difficulty is that in Bangladesh, newspapers find it very difficult to pay their journalists, pay regular salaries to their journalists, pay them on time. Then our journalists do keep changing jobs. The point here is, in Bangladesh, it's a small country. The ad industry is not very big. So what they do is they focus on certain newspapers and put in their ads, to place their ads in those newspapers, to the detriment of other newspapers. So it's a very difficult, pretty hostile environment, in the sense that we go through financial problems. Again, there are all those television channels. On the face of it, you might be feeling very happy that these channels are running on time. They're giving us very good talk shows and other programs. But at the same time, behind the scenes, there are all these other factors, financial factors, even in the media, on television. In the electronic media, people keep changing jobs. Then the first instance I have cited, you might have said, this is one newspaper I used to work for. That was the first newspaper I worked for, and these two brothers, they happened to be executive director 1 and executive director 2 of the newspaper in question. And they were both politically at different ends. The elder sibling, was very much against the government, which was the military government at the time. The younger one was not only the editor of the family newspaper, he also happened to be a minister in the government of General Irshad. And the newspaper, and used to produce the English language newspaper in question. It had 2 editorials every day, and very often, because of these 2 brothers, say, we would run into problems. So one fine, say, in the middle of the night, maybe at 1 a.m., so you might find one of these brothers calling you up and telling you that this editorial is not good, I don't like it, so it goes out. Fine, okay. And then the other brother calls up, the second editorial, I don't like it, goes up. So there are no editorials. And all the editorial writers are at home. See, they were sleeping, see, or so they've already gone to bed. And what happens? They get hold of the sports editor who is there on duty. They make him write one editorial. It doesn't mean anything, but then the prestige of the newspaper is saved. So because the next day, the newspaper would have come out without an editorial. And then we have other, say, these certain instances. Lately, about 3 or 4 years ago, we've had the very curious instance of a business house in Bangladesh, which doesn't have a very good reputation. It decided to bring out 2 newspapers, one in Bengali and one in English. See, and the Bengali newspaper is running on pretty well, quite well. But for the English newspaper, they hired a senior journalist and asked him to hire some more journalists who could work with him. Days before the newspaper would start, would begin publication, the management, the owners that is, they fired 3 of the senior journalists who had come along with the editor, who had come on board with the editor without informing the editor. And the editor took exception to that, he resigned. Then they appointed another editor, he also, in good time, he also was asked to go. Then they looked for editors everywhere. They went to all these different English language newspapers asking senior journalists whether they would be keen to join as editor. Nobody responded. And finally, they zeroed in on an academic, see, a long-serving professor in the Department of History at Dhaka University. He became the editor. We asked him why he had to do that. He said, we need quality journalism. 3 months later, while he was on a trip to his village, say, the owners sent him an email asking him to resign. And he said, let me come back to Dhaka, I'll resign tomorrow. And they said, no, you send in your resignation today. He sent it today. At these are, say, we have these robber barons again who try to bring out newspapers, who do bring out newspapers, but they take away good journalists from other leading newspapers. They promise them double the salaries that they're getting at the present organizations. When they go there, say, it's different. They said, no, we promised you this, but then we can't keep to this promise, so you get 50% of what we promised. So that's why I call this paper these predatory instincts. Then again, in journalism, we have always had the idea, I think some of you might agree with me, that like soldiers, see, journalists never die, they simply fade away. But then one of our leading newspapers in recent times has made it a policy. Say, the suspicion is they want to raise their revenues or maintain their revenues. It has decided that any journalist who has reached the age of 60, see, who has reached the age of 60 will automatically retire from January 1st, 2015. And perhaps, say, the management will be asking some of them to stay on the basis of some contracts, but then it's the prerogative of the owners. And ironically, the editor of the newspaper, he's 66, he's not resigning, so he's not retiring. So that thing, and I'll just come to the conclusion. So coming to politics, we in Bangladesh, say, we tend to, as I said earlier, we are a very vocal people in every sense of the term. And in journalism, this vocal quality is nowhere more pronounced than the way our journalist unions work. We have a tendency, over the years, we have had a tendency in the country to divide the country right down the middle in everything. Say, we have a doctors' association, which is divided into pro-Awami League and pro-BNP camps. We have teachers' associations, again, same thing. It's something like, see, not on the murderous scale, but something on the scale of Rwanda in 1994, Hutus and Tutsis. So we have this situation. In journalism also, we have a Dhaka Union of Journalists, and these 2 factions. One, say, which is very, which leans toward the Awami League, the other leans toward the BNP, and then the Bangladesh Federal Union of Journalists is the same thing. And we have these annual conferences of these 2 factions together. See, one faction invites Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to his conference. The other faction invites Begum Khaleda Zia to its conference. So this condition is also there, and as some of my colleagues pointed out earlier, in about newspapers in Bangladesh, so we are very politically opinionated. We do have certain right-wing newspapers. In fact, there was one newspaper which is not working now. Its editor, so he was never a journalist. He was always in government. But then he became a journalist. He's now in jail. So now we have we have had these occasions when journalists have gone to prison in our part of the world, starting off with Tafazul Hussain Manik Mia in the 1960s when Ayub Khan sent him to jail. But after that, we've had regular journalists who have gone to jail, and some other journalists who have become ministers and ambassadors. So it's a curious mix at times. These are some of the facts that we have in Bangladesh, and I think if you go through these to my paper, it's a very brief paper, but then I've tried to put things in perspective. Journalism is still, a very good profession. The difference is, in the old days, people used to tell us that anybody who can't make a mark in the civil service, who can't go into the civil service or into the diplomatic service or into academia, somehow finds his way into journalism. But that thing is changing. We have a number of private universities coming up which have departments which have media departments like journalism, and they are coming in. So that's the good thing, and I certainly look forward to better journalism in Bangladesh. I'm sure you do that too. Thank you very much.